back to another episode of our Wealth Creation series. In our previous session, we touched on the essential fundamentals needed to build a strong financial foundation that supports wealth creation regardless of the life stages you may be in. Today, we will be diving deeper into these fundamentals to help you get started on your journey. So let's explore practical steps, strategies to set up a budget, maintain an emergency fund, and to translate your financial goals into appropriate products. I'm having this conversation with Siba again. Welcome, Siba.
Always a pleasure, Knox. Thank you for having me.
We discussed the fundamentals of budgeting and taking charge of your finances. How technical or simple is it really to create a budget?
So, Knox, when we look at budgeting, right, we do have a universal template in which we can use, right? So it says 50% of my earnings must go to my needs. So what are my needs? My needs are my bond, my car repayments, insurance, all those things that I really can't live without, those will fall under my needs. School fees, non-negotiable, you cannot pay for the school fees, yes. So also then the remaining amount now, which is the 30% and 20%, the 30% has to go, the 30% and the 20% must be allocated for my wants and savings. So the universal rule says 20% must go to the savings, and then the 30% must go to the rest of my needs. And I like to spin that around most times and say, beef up your savings and rather use the 30% to top up and increase your savings, because once I have enough savings, or at least have an increased buffer in savings, then that helps me when emergency situations come, then I don't have to default and end up taking debt. Can always just tap into my savings, which is better than getting into debt. And also, you'll find a lot of apps and a lot of other templates that are easy to use to help you in your budgeting process.
To help you set up that budget. But approaching that budget with that 50, 30, 20 split will set you up on the right track of just getting financial control and maintaining a good budget.
Most certainly.
Awesome. I've heard that 6% of the population in South Africa are able to retire comfortably. So you say you should actually up that savings to more than 20%. And I'm assuming as you plan for your retirement, you should actually be upping that as well. What would you say one should incorporate in their financial journey as they actually plan for retirement?
Sure. So you'll find that in the market you have retirement annuities, which is a specific product in which one can put money away to save towards retirement. But you also find the younger generation saying, Siba, I don't want to be buying into financial products. They want property. They've got an appetite for other asset classes that can also supplement retirement savings. So I think it's quite important to also just not have a traditional view to say, oh no, a retirement annuity is the only vehicle in which one can use for retirement planning. So I think that agility is quite important. But with that said, it's quite important to understand the benefits of having a retirement annuity. And if one wants to look at a property profile to use that to supplement again your retirement planning, it's quite important to have a bit of a blend or whatever will work for the individual's appetite.
Is that structuring your retirement savings by a combination of portfolios?
There we go. So you can have a portfolio of tangible properties that one is building up through their working life career, or they can then purchase a unit trust with an underlying as property. So it's really depending on the risk appetite, the risk profile of the individual.
Sure. I love that. And I love the combination and having those splits in your portfolio. If we take it back to our traditional retirement savings, right? With retirement savings, do I start saving more earlier on the year, or do I really wait up until the life stage where I'm close to retirement, where I'm now trying to catch up?
So most employed people will have a pension fund or a provident fund through their employer, and a retirement annuity is now an investment product that you can take on your own personal capacity. To your question, it really depends on the individual. But I think what is important is the sooner you start to save towards retirement. The retirement is one of those things that you don't want to delay retirement planning for when you are in your late 40s, because then you don't have the time advantage that you would have had you started in your 20s, and you lose out on the magnificent power of compound interest over all of those years. So I really think it's quite important then that as we are in our careers, or as we navigate life through the life stages, it's quite important that to understand that I'm building towards something at some stage in the faraway future. And also, there are a lot of dynamics around retirement planning, Knox, where you're finding that people are living longer with advanced medicine and technology that is enabling us to be healthier for longer. So I think then we need to also rethink the work life. Are we all going to stop working at 65? The research is saying no. So I really think then we need to be agile in the way in which we're planning for retirement, and the traditional view that no, at retirement we all have to retire is not going to be the case in the coming years.
We just mentioned now the whole part of retirement, but there are different things that affect one's financial journey. There's sicknesses, and they might struggle with employment or losing out in their business or having to take care of a family member. All of this derails you in your financial wealth creation journey. How does maybe insurance play a role then?
I love that question, Knox, and I'm going to answer it earnestly. I've got over a decade of experience being a financial planner. And a couple of weeks ago, a very close friend of mine calls and says, Siba, I've been diagnosed with cancer. I think insurance is always a grudge purchase until life happens. And all the scenarios you've just listed is life happening, right? And so when someone says, and they're saying it's stage 2 or stage 3, the doctors are still determining, then you sit and say, sure, the work I do really matters. Because if you've got R1 million, 2 million, 5 million rand worth of critical illness cover, that means at least as you go through this cancer scare, you've got at least that insurance cover that that is going to pay up in the event of this happening, right? And life happens when we least expect it. I don't think any of us anticipate having cancer. We don't anticipate losing our jobs. We don't anticipate a COVID happening, right? So that is life happening. And so what we can do, what is within our control, is to make sure you're fortified in terms of your financial planning and in terms of you being ready to face whatever storm life throws at you. And I really think then the importance of just making sure you've got the adequate cover, and at least you've got something in place and you understand the benefits that you have at work, even because I do find sometimes a client has got benefits with the employer, but they don't have a clue as to what is this. But I just know that there's money going off from my payslip, but you don't know how much those benefits are. So I really think then I'd like to challenge our listeners to say, look, understand what you have, understand what you don't have, so that you are then able, from a comprehensive financial planning perspective, fit in all those gaps so that when life happens, you are not found stranded.
Sure. Insurance is definitely a grudge purchase, but we've seen time and time again the importance of having that income replacement or that income cover.
Especially in a time like COVID, Knox. Remember, people lost their jobs, and then even in the current economic environment, people are still losing their jobs. There are a number of people who say and call and want financial advice and say, I've been retrenched. And I'm finding also it's the younger people who are also getting retrenched. So it's not just a certain age band or a certain group only. No, it's right across those in mid-career to late career that are being retrenched.
Thank you so much, Siba, for all your insights. It has been valuable, just understanding how to start the budgeting process, just understanding how important insurance is in one's financial plan. Thank you, and see you again soon.
Thank you so much for having me, Knox. Till next time.
Thank you, Siba. We hope this session has provided you with valuable insight and practical steps to build a strong financial foundation. By focusing on budgeting, early investment, and avoiding common early mistakes, you can set yourself up for financial success. Remember, many of us have made these mistakes, such as neglecting our budgeting, delaying our investment, and not having an emergency fund. So learning from these examples can help you avoid the similar pitfalls. Thank you for joining us, and we look forward to having you in our next conversation.